Amazon Wholesale, the Complete Beginner's Guide, 2023 edition. My name is Josh Andrus, and I've been in the Amazon space for a little over 6 years now, and I was head of purchasing for BuyBoxer for a few years, and purchased a total of over $10 million in product. And if you don't already know who BuyBoxer is, they were a top 100 Amazon seller. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into what is wholesale, why you should care about it, and how to do it. Let's get started. So you want a scalable Amazon business, but don't know where to start, right? Wholesale is a fantastic avenue to go for a couple of reasons. The main one, of course, is scalability and the ease of that scalability. So wholesale is a relatively simple concept. You're familiar with Costco. The idea is with Costco wholesale, right, and wholesale in general, is just that you purchase a lot of product. You're confident in this product, and so you purchase a lot of it. And because of the amount of product you've purchased, you're able to get a discount from the supplier that you normally wouldn't. This means that you can get a better margin than you normally would. The advantage here of wholesale is that discount that you should get by buying more than you normally would. So with this business model, there are a lot of gears and cogs that you can optimize and refine all the way along the supply chain up until the customer themselves. So one great thing about wholesale is that you don't need a crazy amount of capital to get started. And so again, it's a very beginner-friendly model for selling on Amazon, and not only a model that's easy, but a model that, again, can be scaled. So within this guide, we're going to cover the basics of wholesale and how that looks. We're going to talk about supply chain. We're going to talk about if wholesale is still worth it in 2023. We're going to talk about wholesale versus other business models. We're going to talk about the roadmap, a simplified roadmap to becoming an Amazon wholesale seller. We're going to talk about choosing the right Amazon seller account type. There are a couple of different types of accounts that you can choose. We're going to talk about how to create an Amazon seller account, which is one of the first steps you're going to take. We're going to talk a little bit about permits and licenses. We're going to talk about Amazon fees. And then we're also going to get to the meat of it, which is how you find products to sell. How do you find suppliers? And finally, how you manage your inventory and fulfill your orders. Lastly, we'll cover a brief FAQ as well. So let's talk about the supply chain. This is, again, a pretty basic concept. You have a couple of players in this model. You have the person who makes the thing. This is your manufacturer or distributor. You have someone like a middleman who basically gets it from the manufacturer to the third party, which is the consumers. And there can be multiple middlemen. The most profitable systems are going to have less people, with their hands in the system. So with this wholesale supply chain, you are that middleman. You are finding a manufacturer or distributor of a product, and you are taking their product directly from them and giving it to the customer. And of course, we're doing that via Amazon. The concept is pretty simple. It's just buy low, sell high. So is Amazon wholesale still worth it? Amazon wholesale is a really good business to start in 2023, despite an increase in the number of Amazon sellers. The potential customer base on Amazon continues to grow along with the amount of sellers and the amount of products that are offered on Amazon. We've provided a little graph for you to understand the growth of Prime users in the United States. As far as Prime is concerned, Amazon is going to the moon there. So there's no shortage of people looking to buy products, and there's no shortage of products out there to buy. We also have a little chart here that shows Amazon Prime Day sales and their continued growth, and that correlating with Prime subscriptions, which is pretty strong. There, again, is just a never-ending supply of products to sell on Amazon, as well as people who want to buy them. That's the bottom line. Of course, there are a growing number of sellers. We would expect to see that. So let's talk about other business models aside from wholesale. This one's pretty simple. There's just a handful of them. And I'll go in order of kind of simplicity and move up from there. So the first one that kind of contrasts with Amazon wholesale is Amazon retail arbitrage. We talked about the supply chain. Retail arbitrage is a similar model where instead of going to the manufacturer distributor, you're going to retail stores, and you're looking for products that are discounted enough that you can snag a margin if you were to buy them and then resell them on Amazon. Retail arbitrage is defined as a method of reselling a product where you source from retail stores. Closely related, we also have online arbitrage. And online arbitrage is similar to retail arbitrage in the fact that you are selling a product. The only difference is where you source them from. Instead of a retail store, online arbitrage relies on sourcing online, finding deals online. And that way, online and retail arbitrage are both very, very similar. It's a very simple approach to the principle of buy low, sell high. And often these models are done on a smaller scale. You'll see the people do this with shoes or books, for example. These are really good models if you have very, very little to start your Amazon business, by the way. And then finally, of course, we talked about Amazon Wholesale and we're going to continue. So Amazon Wholesale will fit here. And then lastly, we have private label, which is a much more serious and involved Amazon business model. The idea behind private label is you are creating a private product, your own product. And there's various ways you can do this. What's most common is someone will take an existing product and give it their own branding. You see this happen a lot outside of Amazon and within Amazon. This also extends to people who create a brand new product themselves. The main thing is you're creating a brand and attaching your product to this brand, thus making this product unique and it's yours, hence the name private. And so those are the 4 models, including wholesale, that you can choose from. Of course, we'll be talking about wholesale today. So let's talk about a little bit of the advantages that wholesale might have over arbitrage, either retail or online. The first and primary reason you would choose wholesale over retail arbitrage is the bulk discounts. In retail arbitrage, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever discounts happen to be around, maybe during clearance time or during sales. With wholesale though, the bulk discounts are available based on a certain amount of volume. Normally there is a correlate between the amount of something you buy and the amount of discount you receive. The next thing is time efficiency. Because of the time it takes to find individual products via arbitrage, wholesale becomes much more efficient because instead of sourcing 100 products individually, you can source just one product, but 100 of it. And move that same amount of volume with the same time it would take to find one product versus 100 individually. The third thing is that we have consistent supplier relationships. With online and retail arbitrage, you are again kind of at the mercy of somewhat random events, and your suppliers might vary. They will vary actually, and sometimes this store might have deals whereas this one might not. And with wholesale, you develop a really close relationship with your suppliers. Only good things really happen from those kind of close relationships. And the consistency though is the key thing here. The consistency saves you time and money in the long run. Next, we have a greater control over your inventory. This allows you to really refine and hone the exact products you want to sell, again, instead of being at the mercy of a random sale or clearance section at a retail store or online. Next and finally, we have scalability. Because of the time requirements needed to research individual products with online or retail arbitrage, wholesale becomes a very effective model to sell on Amazon if your goal is scalability. With wholesale, you're able to grow these supplier relationships and refine your ordering process to the point where you can purchase hundreds of thousands of dollars of inventory with a single click sometimes. Just depends on how refined your processes are, but in the end, there is a finite limit to the amount of time you can spend and the amount of products you can find with online and retail arbitrage, whereas with wholesale, sky is pretty much the limit. As long as you have those consistent supplier relationships, you can scale as much as you'd like. Next, let's talk about advantages of Amazon Wholesale over private label. The most important thing you need to understand is that private label is a very expensive business model to start with. Most people do not start on Amazon by starting on private label. Private label requires a lot of capital upfront to get your product going. Just to kind of give you an idea of the magnitude here, I've heard of people starting a private label business with as little as $20,000, whereas I've heard that $50,000 to $80,000 is recommended, which that's a pretty broad range of capital there, but the magnitude is there. Whereas with wholesale, you can start a wholesale Amazon business with a couple $100s. There are a lot of suppliers that will fill your orders with maybe even smaller numbers initially. So lower startup costs are the first thing that make wholesale advantageous over private label. Next, we have faster time to market. Time to market just means how long can we get your product in front of a customer. With private label, you need to go through a product development phase, and you need to basically bulletproof your business model and make sure that you're gonna sell the product and it's gonna work. With wholesale, you're selling existing products that are already on the marketplace, that already have a proven track record, and that's how you're able to make buying decisions, is based on those historical performances of individual products. And so the time to market is almost instant. The instant you buy the product will go through the supply chain and reach the customer right away. There is no time to market time to decide if that product is going to sell or not, basically. So the third advantage that Amazon wholesale might have over private label is predictable demand. When you make your own product, you're a bit of a pioneer. You are 100% a pioneer, actually, because you're likely doing something in a way that no one else has really done before, right? And so it's a little bit more risky. You're not totally sure what's gonna happen when you do private label. Of course, that means that if you're gonna do private label, you have to be really careful. You have to make sure that you do tons and tons and tons of market research and product development, right? With wholesale, again, because of the fact that these products already exist, we can look at historical trends with any product on Amazon. Again, this is something that Smart Scout is especially good for, by the way. We can look at historical trends on any product and understand how they perform. This is a significant advantage because when you're ordering a product, you need to be able to understand how much to order of. And for example, you might have a seasonal product that becomes really popular during Christmas time, and you're gonna need to keep that in mind as you place an order. With private label, you're starting this from the beginning. You don't have a historical trend to work off of. And so again, predictable demand makes you able to operate a business that's much more efficient because you can predict how much of something to buy and how much to stock up for. So the fourth and the last advantage that Amazon wholesale might have over private label is a lower risk of intellectual property issues. In a private label, of course, you're going to be creating something that is new, but is there any actually new idea? Right? Is there any genuinely new idea out there? The reality is that there are many iterations of your idea probably, and there are intellectual property laws that will intersect there, that could intersect there. And so because you're selling an established product with the wholesale model, those intellectual property issues have been sorted out a long time ago, which is why the product is still functioning and selling well on Amazon. With private label, you might make a fidget spinner or something and realize that there are many others. You might sell a flashlight that looks just like someone else's flashlight, and you might not know it. And you might be hit with a legal problem because you didn't do enough product research and development, or market research for that matter. So again, lastly, there is a lower risk of intellectual property issues when you are selling wholesale on Amazon. So let's talk about the roadmap to becoming an Amazon wholesale seller. It's fairly straightforward. Step one is you're going to create an Amazon seller account. No matter which one you're starting with, whether it's arbitrage, wholesale, or private label, that's going to be one of the first steps. Get permits and licenses is the next step on the roadmap. This all just depends on where you live and what the laws are like. Different places are going to have different rules about that. Next step is to find profitable products. This is again where Smart Scout comes in. You need to be able to understand what makes a product make you money, and you need to have good data to do that. So next, you need to find suppliers that will give you the products that you want to sell. And lastly, once you find those suppliers, you're going to finally sell on Amazon. It's 5 total steps and very simplified roadmap. So let's hop right into that. Let's talk about choosing the right account type. So Amazon offers 2 types of seller accounts, which are individual and professional. The gist of it is that an individual seller account is much cheaper depending on what kind of a seller you are. Basically, an individual seller account is geared towards someone who's going to sell very little on Amazon. This is a very small endeavor. A professional one is basically a account where you're going to sell a lot more than, let's say, $30-40 a month. Right. The individual plan costs 99 cents for each item you sell, and the professional plan costs $40 per month. And again, your cost benefit analysis is basically factoring in that $40 price tag for the professional plan and versus the 99 cents for each item you sell on the individual. And so the rule of thumb is if you're going to sell, more than 40-ish items per month, or if you want access to like advanced selling tools that Amazon provides, you're going to go with a professional plan. We've included a little overview here in the article that will go into more detail about that. So let's talk about creating an Amazon seller account. This is pretty straightforward. You're going to visit the Amazon Seller Central website. Again, Amazon Seller Central website, and click on that large sign up button. You'll probably have an Amazon account already existing if you've ever shopped on Amazon. If not, you'll need to create one, but you can use that one. And they're going to ask you for a few personal details. You'll fill that out, of course. You'll choose your plan, which will likely be professional. And you'll again next enter your tax identity information. And then you'll set up a payment method. And that is the whole process for setting up an Amazon seller account. Pretty straightforward. Let's go on to something next, though, that is a little bit less straightforward, and that is permits and licenses. Before diving headfirst into the wholesale arena, make sure that you have these items. So generally speaking, you're going to want a reseller's permit or a sales tax permit. These just allow you to legally purchase goods for resale without paying sales tax. And so that's going to save you a bunch on your margin. If you don't do this, you're going to have to pay sales tax. That's going to knock like, 6 to 8 to 10, I don't know, percent off your margin, which is really, really bad. That's huge. So the process for getting that varies by state. Generally a secretary.gov website is where you can find that kind of information about how to get that. Next, you'll need a business license. Again, this really depends on your states and local regulations. You might need a business license to operate. You might not. So make sure you're checking with your local government and office to determine what's required in your area. And last, you'll need a tax ID number. This is also known as an employer identification number, or EIN. This allows you to file taxes and open a business bank account. Again, if you're going to scale a wholesale business, you're going to want business bank accounts, and to open a business bank account, you need an EIN. Make sure you get that. You can get that for free from the IRS, and you do it online. It's really, really easy. So moving on, let's talk about Amazon fees and expenses. This is a really critical part of selling wholesale or just selling in general on Amazon. The short version here is that Amazon is going to charge you a lot of fees. The good news is that you'll still be profitable, but it's only if you understand how these fees work. So a couple fees to hit you with. First, we have our subscription fees. We already talked about the Amazon seller accounts. For most, it's going to be about $40 a month. Next, our referral fees. Think of this as the sales commission for Amazon displaying and selling your product online, basically. Generally, this is something about 15%, but it ranges. Sometimes it's 8%, sometimes it can even be more than that 15%. It varies by category. There are certain categories that are given higher or lower referral fees. So being able to use Smart Scout, for example, to understand which categories have what referral fees is a great way of using that tool. The biggest fees are fulfillment fees. So if you have Amazon ship your product for you to get that Amazon Prime badge, then Amazon is going to charge you for the process of getting that package to the customer. This is called your fulfillment fees. Fulfillment just refers to that process of, again, getting that package to that customer. Generally speaking, fulfillment fees and your referral fees are gonna collectively take up about 30% of the slice of the pie, so to speak. And so again, fulfillment fees are the larger of that. They can be as much as 20 to 30% of the total revenue of your product. So with fulfillment fees, because they have to do with getting the product from Amazon to the customer, these fulfillment fees are actually based on the shipping logistics, the shipping details of your product. How big is it? How much does it weigh? Amazon has a sizing tier system, and this tier system determines how much money you have to pay for them to get your product to your customer. Obviously, something that's bigger and heavier is going to cost more. So I would direct you to Smart Scout's FBA calculator if you're interested in learning more about how fulfillment fees work. We really break it down, and we help you understand how to optimize your product to make sure it's in the best sizing tier available. So let's move on. Next, moving on this roadmap here, let's talk about how to find Amazon wholesale products. Again, I did this for years with BuyBoxer. This is our bread and butter. The process that we used at BuyBoxer to become a top 100 Amazon seller is what gave birth to Smart Scout. And so we're gonna dive right into this real quick. So there are a lot of different methods for finding wholesale products to sell. Here are some general tips when you're looking for these products. So first is avoid Amazon like the plague. what's really funny about this is whenever you're shopping on Amazon, there's basically two types of sellers that you can see. There's Amazon itself, and then there's other people. The short story here is that if you are gonna sell AirPods, for example, which I probably would not recommend doing, what's gonna happen is you're gonna try to sell them, and Amazon is also selling the AirPods. Amazon will get the sale every time, and Amazon will never run out of AirPods. You can bet on that. Avoid Amazon like the plague means you are not buying products that Amazon themselves are already selling. Next, you want to avoid selling private label products. Obviously, like if you're selling wholesale, you don't want to sell someone else's stuff. Like you don't want to sell another brand's stuff without their authorization, basically. And then the other caveat there too is basically with private label products, if you happen to get your hands on a private label product and there's only one seller on that product, when you look at it on Smart Scout, basically what's going to happen is you're going to get reported and a lot of bad things are going to happen. So always check and make sure that the product you're selling has multiple sellers and that it's not a private label product, because you could run into some legal issues there. Next is avoid products with the brand as one of the sellers. This is a really good indicator as to whether or not a product is a private label product. For example, let's go back to the AirPods. If you go on a listing, you look at AirPods and Apple is the only seller, there's a reason for that. And if you try to sell AirPods on Amazon, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Apple has dominated that listing, in other words. So next is sell products that are proven to sell. Generally speaking, you can really approximate this with best seller rank. This ranking is a really good like earmark for how well a product is doing. Basically anything lower than 40,000 in ranking is ideal, or at least a good earmark of something that could be a good product. So next, look for established small to medium brands. Again, you don't want to be running out the gate trying to sell like name brand stuff, because like Apple or Lego, they're big, they're well established, and you're gonna get eaten up by all of the bigger sellers there. So you want to look for products to have the right amount of competition for you. Again, Smart Scout is a great resource to understand the competition level on any given product or listing. Next, check your potential share of units sold per month. This is really simple. If a product is not private label, there are multiple sellers on this listing. And if you want to sell, let's say a toothbrush, and there are, 9 sellers on that listing, if you were going to sell along with them, you guys would split the total sales in 10 pieces. That's a rule of thumb you can follow to kind of approximate what your sales could look like, give you a realistic idea. So make sure that the share of units sold per month that you're gonna have is realistic. A footnote about that is this pie that we're talking about and the number of slices in it is determined by the amount of FBA or fulfilled by Amazon sellers that are on the listing that are competitive, which means they are within basically a percentage point of each other of the lowest price. Anything outside of 1 to 2% of that lowest price is not competitive. So take those competitive sellers specifically, and you can kind of determine how big of a slice of the pie you're gonna get. Lastly, check price history. There are a lot of tools out there to do this. Smart Scout's one of them. You can look at the price history and see if a product is going to give you consistent results. If you have a product that consistently goes extremely low in price, then you need to factor that in and say, if that product were to hit this super low price, would I still be profitable? And is that likely to happen to me? There are a lot of times where you're gonna see a graph like that and you're gonna realize, hey, my supplier's offering me this kind of a price, and because, the price history shows this dip here, it's a risk I don't want to take. So pricing history is a great tool you can use to understand whether or not you should sell a product. So let's move on. Methods to find products for wholesaling. Method 1 is using a category filtering method. This is pretty straightforward. So basically on Amazon, there are different categories of products that you can buy from, like home and garden, health and household, that sort of thing. In a nutshell, here's the process of category filtering. First, you go to Amazon and choose a category you're interested in selling in. Then you'll choose that category, and let's say you want to, find something under the pet supplies category. You'll click search, and you will see all the subcategories under the pet supplies category. You can choose a subcategory underneath pet supplies. So, for example, let's choose dogs, and then you can even go deeper. Another subcategory within dogs, you might have dog toys. Next, let's set our filters. We want to look for products that have good reviews. So let's just say 4 stars and higher. And generally speaking, let's look for something that's selling for the right price. Let's talk about that real quick. We know that Amazon is going to charge you a minimum of basically $3.50 for anything you sell on Amazon FBA. What this means is that there's basically a minimum threshold with FBA where you can be profitable. It's about $10. Anything that's sold FBA for less than $10 is crazy. There's something crazy going on. They're sourcing the product for extremely cheap, but basically anything approaching 10 is bad. You're not gonna make any money off of that. So I like to set my minimum at somewhere between $15 to $18. And then the sweet spot, you don't wanna get much higher than 20 to 25. So set it to something like 15 to 25 bucks. These are again using your filters just in Amazon, and start exploring for product opportunities. We have a video here that kind of goes into how to do that a little bit more in depth, but that's how you do it just using Amazon.com. The next method for finding products to sell is by using a product research tool. This is the solution that we at Smart Scout wanted to solve when we created Smart Scout. What we've basically done is we've said, okay, let's look at all the data out there, let's put it in one place and make it easy for you to use so you don't have to do all the hard work. Basically, you can just put in the filters you really want and zoom in super far and see exactly what products you want. So with Smart Scout, we can do something similar to what I just described on Amazon.com, but a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more data oriented. You'll use our subcategories tool to do this. And again, you'll filter down through dogs and then down to dog toys. And then you can search using the little search icon, you can search for products. And here you'll be able to see it basically just a fancy spreadsheet with all the information you could possibly want to decide which products in that list are going to be good products. Again, we're going to filter for things like, are they private label? Is Amazon selling them? Are they the right price? That sort of thing. So a couple things you can do is you can also look at like the number of sellers that are selling the listing. You can see all the review ratings. You can see the prices, their fluctuations out through time. And by using these really powerful Smart Scout filters, we can filter very quickly down to a certain set of products that meet the criteria that we want. You know, you can sort by rank. Here, we show that on the website. Yeah, using this tool in tandem with our FBA calculator allows you to quickly generate a list of products within any kind of niche that you could potentially sell wholesale. We also include a bonus method of finding products here in the blog, so make sure to check that out. The method number 3 that we're going to talk about is wholesale to Amazon. So in general, here are the steps that we can use to find profitable products using this method. Basically, we just find a supplier first, a wholesale supplier. We open an account with that wholesale supplier and we request a catalog or a master list of all of their products. And we plug it into Smart Scout using the UPC scanner. And then we just identify from that list which ones we want to buy using Smart Scout. Kind of reverse what we've talked about. Going through Amazon and finding our product versus going through the supplier and then finding the right product that way. So those are a couple of the ways you can find profitable products to sell wholesale on Amazon. Let's pivot to our second to last topic, which is finding and approaching suppliers. This is the most important part of wholesale. This is also arguably the most difficult part of wholesale because everything else is straightforward and guaranteed, whereas the suppliers, finding them and making deals with them is not. So a couple of strategies to finding and approaching suppliers. Number 1 is attend trade shows. Trade shows are meetups where large amounts of suppliers gather and a large amount of sellers will go and they'll see products on display and you can talk with the supplier and make deals right then and there. Another one is you can use reverse sourcing with Smart Scout. Reverse sourcing is referring to the process of looking at competitor listings on Amazon to identify their suppliers. Smart Scout simplifies that process by giving you the right data on sellers, products, and brands. And this allows you to identify trends and find popular products and also uncover suppliers that are used by successful sellers. The third method we can use to locate and find suppliers is via local distribution, which has a lot of advantages. So in your area, there are going to be local distributors, and finding those will give you not only a good in because you're from the same place, but also that proximity, you'll be able to meet them in person. It helps you build better quality control as well, and kind of, again, get that interpersonal relationship going. Really, really good, really, really powerful. If you have a local supplier that you know of, hit them up. Next, we have wholesale forums and communities. There are tons and tons of forums and communities out there on the internet via Twitter, via their other websites. Join them, see what's up. see what people are saying. Sale Who is a popular wholesale directory and community that provides access to over 8,000 suppliers and dropshippers worldwide. So we'd recommend starting there if you are looking for a place to find these suppliers. Lastly is supplier directories. It feels like a needle in a haystack sometimes when you're trying to find suppliers. A lot of places have supplier directories, which make this process a lot easier. So here are a few popular options. Most people who are adjacent or in the Amazon space have heard of Alibaba. It's a global marketplace that connects sellers with suppliers from various industries. It's an excellent way of finding manufacturers and wholesalers primarily in Asia. Next is Global Sources, which is a leading B2B or business-to-business marketplace, and again offers a wide range of products from manufacturers and suppliers, but primarily in Asia. And next is ThomasNet, which is a directory of North American manufacturers and suppliers and distributors with a focus on industrial and commercial products. That concludes how to find and approach suppliers. Let's move on to our next topic, which is managing inventory and order fulfillment. So far we have found a profitable product and we found a supplier to give us that product. Now we need to talk about what to do next, right? How to purchase that product, how to manage it, and how to complete an order. So before you do any of that, you have to choose what kind of fulfillment method you want to tackle. This is very straightforward. There's only two options. There's fulfilled by Amazon, which means Amazon takes your product and gives it to the customer, or there's fulfillment by merchant or FBM. This means that you, in your garage, are going to put everything in a box, wrap it up, put a sticker on it, take it to UPS. So different advantages and disadvantages with both. With Amazon FBA, you don't have to worry about anything. It just costs money in the form of our fulfillment fee. That's just a math problem, basically. Time, money, that's it. Now with FBM, this allows you to be a little bit more, precise with how you want to manage your inventory. You might be able to do it cheaper than how Amazon does it. Generally speaking though, if you don't have experience with fulfillment, there's going to be a lot of trial and error, and you're likely not going to do it cheaper than Amazon until you've learned a few things, basically. But it can result in lower fees, which can allow you to have a little bit more control over your business, as well as understanding exactly how the shipping process works end to end. So if you want to have a little bit more control, you're going to choose FBM. Just a really important note though is FBA products are Amazon Prime products, and they win the buy box much more than FBM products. And so you're gonna have to take that into account. Again, Smart Scout is a great tool to understand whether or not a listing would be able to be a good listing via FBM. So make sure you keep that in mind. Let's talk about a couple of best practices when it comes to managing inventory. You need to have enough product and you shouldn't run out. That's the main idea. So you need to plan for seasonality and fluctuations in demand. Make sure you're paying attention to seasonal trends, holidays, and other factors that can impact how many of your product people are buying. And make sure you're always in touch with your stock levels. Never be out of touch. Enable some notifications. There are a lot of good inventory managers out there that you can use that'll help streamline this process and make it easier for you. Next, when it comes to managing your inventory, you're gonna have to deal with returns and refunds, and the way you do that is, again, completely up to you. First off, here's how you're gonna handle these returns and refunds like a pro. First, you need to understand Amazon's return policy. As an Amazon seller, you are required to comply with Amazon's return policy, which allows customers to return items within 30 days of receipt, generally speaking. Become familiar with the policy and make sure your practices align with that requirement. Make sure that you handle returns efficiently when they do happen. To minimize the negative impact of returns on your business, make sure that you are inspecting returned items, that you are processing refunds as fast as you can, and that you are analyzing data on returns. If you do those three things, you'll be a champ and you'll get through it all just okay. Okay, last section is FAQs, frequently asked questions. How much capital do I need to start an Amazon wholesale business? When I was buying for BuyBoxer, there were a lot of suppliers that would allow you to do sample orders in the beginning, which could be like $100. And from there you can move on to a $300 or $400 or $500 order. I would recommend somewhere in the ballpark of $3,000 though for starting up a wholesale business. Can you do Amazon wholesale part-time? The short answer is yes, absolutely. Like anything, the amount that you get out of it kind of determined by how much time you put into it. If you put part-time effort into Amazon wholesale business, you will have decent results. This is something that you can make full-time though, and like anything else, like any other business, if you go full-time with it, it has the potential to absolutely skyrocket. So it just depends on how much you want to scale and how quickly, basically. What are the most common challenges in Amazon wholesale? It's going to be kind of revolving around two things, which is finding like reliable products and finding reliable sellers. If you can overcome those two things, you can do anything basically. Two more things. How do I handle sales tax on Amazon wholesale? You're gonna need to collect sales tax and remit it to the appropriate tax authorities. Make sure you're documenting everything. Obviously, you're gonna make sure you have your sales tax permit or your reseller's permit. And you can actually do the tax collection through your Amazon seller's account, which makes it a little bit easier. The last question here is, what are good wholesale margins? There's just not a good one-size-fits-all option, but realistically, we're gonna wanna aim for at least 20% in margin. Anything above that is healthy. Anything less than that, there's probably some ways that you can optimize your business. In conclusion, Amazon wholesale is a great opportunity for someone who wants to get started in the Amazon business and also wants to eventually scale their business. It's a great investment opportunity, and it's a great opportunity to learn how to be a business owner. And so if you're considering Amazon wholesale, I'd highly recommend doing it and diving in and learning more about it. It can be extremely rewarding, and again, is a great intro to learning how to build a large business within retail specifically. So without further ado, we will conclude this video, and thanks for watching.